Hey everybody, it's Billy Nash. Happy New Year. I hope everybody had an awesome holiday and a happy New Year. We're kicking off 2023, so I figured what better way to kick it off with my first guest, which I'm pretty honored to have here. And this is a guest who has accolades that go on and on and on. He is not only the CEO of the largest independent brokerage real estate firm in the state of Florida. Also, it's ranked top 25 in the United States. And he's also the chairman of leading real estate companies of the world, which has 130,000 agents around the planet, which to me is pretty damn impressive. So with that, I want to welcome Mr. Michael Pappas.
Wow.
To the Luxury Real Estate Show. Hey,
I'm
Mike.
honored to be here, Billy. Good. I mean, got the superstar. You've been on the stage in leading real estate companies of the world in Vegas, so great to be here. Honored to be here.
Well, listen, I'm glad you paid him a lot of money for me to be up on the stage.
That's right. But you were the star, just as you are now. You know how to communicate. You know how to talk to people and give great information. So we're honored to be here.
And I'm honored to have you, and I appreciate it very much. And if anybody was listening to my first podcast, I talked about how I started in the business. And there was a person that I got to meet, and I realized then that I wanted to join this firm, and that person was Mike Pappas, and the rest is history, and that was about 7 years ago.
I'm going to give you $2 for that. That was congratulations. That's nice.
There you go. So people probably don't realize what the $2 for, but Mike is very passionate about when you say something that makes sense, you get a $2 bill.
Or something that is good. Exactly right.
Something that's good, you get a $2 bill. And I actually, when I get these $2 bills, I actually put them on my refrigerator like a little kid. So Mike, let's just cut to the chase and get right into it. So you've been an entrepreneur your whole life. You're an SOB, which is son of a broker.
Very good. So I said I qualify that. Oh, I've been with the company that's 97 years old. I'm the third generation of that, but quite honored to do that and feel like a good steward. But yes, for the last 30 years, been running the operation,
which is amazing. So underneath your under your leadership, the Kai's company and Illustrated has grown to over 7,000 agents around Florida. We have well recognized and you as an authority in the real estate industry. How have you seen the real estate industry change over the last, let's say, 20 years?
Oh my!
And keep it, we should keep it to some from 10,000 feet. What have you seen?
It's been radical change. I mean, there's no question. We've always had an onslaught changes in the industry. Thinking back, franchises when I first got started were just becoming into vogue. Then you got companies that said, "I'll pay you 100%." RE/MAX that came into the business and said you can rent a desk. Then you had another firm come in and raise the lower fee. So we've had radical changes. Now you got virtual offices, technology. We've had prop tech, $20 billion coming into the business. You got Zillows and Realtor.coms. So there's been radical changes. But what has been essential in that 20, 30 years, what I've seen is the realtors' knowledge and expertise hasn't changed. They've been trying to thwart them out. They've been trying to thwart us out. And at the end today, what we've just seen in the past year with everybody dying in the business and public companies losing money and changing things, the realtor is at the core of the business, which is, I think, bodes well to this day and into the future.
And that's interesting you say that. That's actually something that we talked about at Luxury Portfolio International's conference at the Wynn last year, which, by the way, whoever's listening, it's a fabulous conference to attend. Right. This year it'll be again next year. It should be next March. Actually, this year in March.
And I think you're speaking at that, and I'll be there also as my end of my chairmanship.
Yes, actually, I'm going to speak again, and that should be a fun event. But one of the things I mentioned in Leading RE was, at the Luxury Portfolio Leading RE conference, was that technology take over the AI? Would it take over the real estate industry, and the broker and the agent becomes something of the past? And what I said, quite frankly, is at the end of the day, we are deal makers.
Amen.
We add value. And for the agents that get that, they will go to the next level. All this, artificial intelligence, and listen, I have not seen a computer negotiate a $10 million deal in my life.
Right. No, I think the expertise and knowledge of the realtors that are in that league is bar none, you can't replace. And that differentiator is the key to great deal makes. It's relationship driven, and then it's negotiations and knowledge and expertise, and you're dealing with a very emotional individuals, both on the buy and the sell, that you can't package and computerize.
So, Mike, let me ask you a question. I mean, I know that you have relationships with brokers and agents all over the world. Is there a difference between a luxury real estate agent in America versus a luxury real estate agent in Dubai or in Spain or in Italy? Do you see any specific distinctive differences, or is there still the same core values?
Yeah, I think there's no question when you say luxury, you have to be a peer. We talked about that earlier, that the seller or the buyer that is buying a great price of goods is looking for an equal of value of knowledge and experience. And they're going to sniff that out, almost like dogs sniff it out, and realize, does that individual really know? And if he or she knows and has the relationships and is playing in the same field as they are, then they're going to trust that individual's with his or her property or ability to buy or sell. So I think it begins with relationships and knowledge and experience, and that takes time. Competence builds confidence. And so the catch is, how do you make that happen? It's like you had a vision, you had a goal, you said, this is where I want to be, and now everything you do is trying to accomplish that and create that in your marketing, in your social media, in your presence. So is that worldwide? Yes. I think it's similar. I mean, it's the networking, it's the clubs, it's the community, it's the charity events, it's all of those things that build that confidence in that consumer that says he or she is an expert.
One of the things, Mike, and that's a great answer, one of the things I talked about with listeners early on was, mentorship. And I said specifically, if you don't have a mentor, get one. Because I think we all need a mentor, sometimes just in life and then also, in business. What are your thoughts on mentors in the real estate industry? If you're a young, broker that's up and coming, or you're an established broker that might be stuck in your business, what would you say to that listener about having a mentor in the industry?
Yeah, I think knowledge is power. And so you have to get that, and experience there's nothing that equates to experience. So you can get mentorship in a lot of ways. You can get it through education, you can get it through coaching, and you can buy coaches. There's a lot of coaches. It's not a complicated business. It's complicated in the execution, but it's not complicated in the idea. Basically, you have to find a buyer and a seller, put them together, and you get paid a lot of money. How do you go about creating that environment and creating that image and that personality to be able to do it? So yes, that's why teams are the hot topic, because people want structure and they want organization, and they'll work for less if I can get a system and process and maybe even lead gen than I will if I have to go hunt for it on my own. So the real entrepreneurial individuals, I think it's the 10,000 hour rule. You have to put the time in to become the expert. Over time, then can you be the leader? So yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to get mentorship. Your manager should be able to do it. Your organization, your company, leading RE. So I read everything. You read everything. At Inman and Reese Media, there's great articles. It's not complicated. This is what I've learned. Innovation is worshipped, and you're doing innovating things, and that's why people like you and are attracted to you. But innovation is rewarded. Execution is worshipped. So doing the detail and getting it done is really the key.
What makes an agent fail?
My belief is they won't do what everybody else knows they need to do, which is really, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. I mean, what do we know, Billy? At the top 10% of the markets, that's what they define luxury as. So in our marketplace, there's 100,000 properties. So 10,000 luxury properties are going to sell. Of those, in that community, there's probably 200,000 properties. So 5 out of 100 are going to sell, 1 out of 20. So you don't know who that one is. The key is how do you consistently make those connections with those 20, so when that person thinks about listing or selling, he's going to think of you. And most people don't have that discipline, aren't willing to make those connections, and aren't willing to play that numbers game. So they're waiting for business to come to them rather than attacking and going after the market.
So what do you think is more important? branding or hard work or the combination of both?
Yeah, I think if you put marketing and technology, you talked about it, leveraging the system, and making those connections, I think that branding yourself, we're seeing it. Social media allows you to be a real TV star. You're doing it. I mean, I think people love you. My stepmother, who passed away, used to follow you, and she goes, I want to meet him. I mean, she was in South Carolina in real estate. So that aura and that creation, because you're giving back, you've done that to our associates, you're willing to share, you're willing to give ideas, you're willing to do things, but also that the community sees you making sales, marketing. I think your detail and your eye of great marketing, positioning the property properly, taking the photos, the drones, investing in those properties is key. Most realtors at the luxury space, it's $10,000, $15,000 a listing. And most people won't pay to position that property correctly so that when they capture that buyer, they're able to present that price. So you're doing it both for the seller, but also for the buyer.
So now that we just kicked off a new year, 2023, I know, Mike, that you've been through multiple market cycles. So let's start talking about forecasting and maybe what you've experienced in the past. I think this will help listeners know that if you think the markets might be slowing down, you shift, you adjust to the market. So looking back, in the different market cycles that you've been through, do you see this as something different, or do you see this as just another normalization in a market that got overheated?
Yeah, there's no question that we pulled deals in COVID from the future to the past. So we stole deals that should have been being done in 2023 that were done in 2021 for all the reasons. We had low interest rates are rising, but there are a lot of positive things for this market. I actually think the normalization is past. The rates are dropping now as we're seeing. Inflation is starting to get curbed. And I think as we move out, whether we're in a recession or not, real estate, if we are and it's slowing, rates will drop and that will feed our market. So I believe within the second quarter and the third quarter, we're going to see upticks and a better deal. So you should be positioning yourself now. I think it's managing listings this year. They're going to stay on the market longer. They're going to try to have aspirational pricing. You talk about no on the other your timecast before, but I do think you're going to have to manage listings down, communicate information, even if it's not. No news is news. If it's not getting shown, that's communicating effectively, and so in marketing properly. So I think it's a game for the experts. It's a market for those that are really above the rest, and it'll attract those. The also-rans will die out because they're not going to be able to compete in a market that needs real expertise.
I look at rising interest rates. When I look at the market, somebody asked me, I always get asked about rising interest rates in the real estate market. I look at, luxury, real estate in a way is allergic to rising interest rates. So analogy can always be fixed. So at the end of the day, things go up, things go down. So I look for rates to go up a couple of more times in 2023, stabilize, and again, economic indicators are lagging. So by the time we say, you know what, we're in a recession, we're probably coming out of it. So don't wait to see some predictor of the future. Just be prepared, because before you know it, things will reverse on the dime when it comes to the Fed. So I look for interest rates to stay, elevated, but really 4 to 5% or 4.5 to 5.5% 30-year fixed on a mortgage is technically cheap, relatively speaking.
That's the difference. The short-term Fed rate doesn't necessarily predict the mortgage rate.
Correct.
And so what the mortgage rate is wanting to see is a curve of inflation, which we're already seeing. And we've already seen in December a drop in interest rates because the 30-year bonds dropped from 4.2 down to 3.5. And as that's sustainable, that should give us 5.5% interest rates. And I think as the market, just as you said, in the recession occurs and we get the data, the market may already be saying, look, we'll take lower interest rates, and that's going to fuel our second quarter and our third quarter as we move forward. So I'm very positive that if we've tamed inflation, that the year will be a good year ahead.
I agree. So Mike, if you had to, give the listeners just a couple of sentences on the 2023, I would say, go-to things to think about or things to do to have themselves go to the next level, be prepared, what would that be? If a listener came to you and said, Mike, in 2023, I get it. I'm reading the news, and I want to go to the next level. I'm totally amped up. I'm fired up. What would you tell that agent?
So first off, I always say, what's my why? Why am I doing it? Why am I here? You say a great entrepreneur, they have to be clearly define their vision and their goals. So when you say, what should I do? The catch is what do I want to do? And so I want to be a $25 million producer, a $2 million producer, a $100 million producer. Then what's my average price that I'm going after? And then I do the math and I back into so that in a Monday morning when I wake up, I've got a plan of attack that from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, I'm making my calls to my past clients, or I'm visiting this, or I'm in this community, and I structure my opportunities really defined so that I'm clear on my goals and my vision, so that therefore I can accomplish my goals. And if you're not, and you're floating around and going, okay, I hope to do $30 million next year, it's probably not going to happen as much. Now, you may be connected, you may be socially connected, and you can do the business, but if you want to define it and have the pattern of activities that will generate it, I almost think it's foolproof.
One last question, Mike, and then we'll wrap it up. If you're a listener right now and you're working for a firm that might, not necessarily focus on luxury or have good training programs or whatever, you're just hanging your license with a brokerage firm somewhere in the country, and you really want to take it to the next level, what would your advice be to that agent without mentioning firms or anything like that? Right. If you're just kind of at a firm that's got 20 people or whatever, and you say, I really want to, I got to get in a different environment to really help me grow. What would you say to that listener that might be in that conundrum?
Well, I think you can see by the MLS, who's doing it. You can do an analysis. You can figure out which firms are in those marketplace, and you could go interview them and talk to them if that's what you're thinking of shifting. Now, saying that, I think it takes everybody wants to do luxury, but if you don't act and feel like you are luxury, so it really starts with the personal belief that I'm there and then I can attract it. If it's, I hope to be there tomorrow, it's a visualization and a mindset that says everything, the way I dress, the cars I drive, the people I hang with, and the communities I engage with, the philanthropy I do. So you've got to put and immerse yourself in that you can't hope to be there, because remember we started talking about them smelling you and sniffing you. If they don't feel you're authentic and you're real, now the catch is, how do I do that? So it may be partnering with the Billy Nash and saying, I want to come work on your team. It may be learning from a top producer and say, I'll go do the grunt work to be able to break in and then break off. And there are programs, there's luxury programs in the nation. Luxury Portfolio has the program, so there are educational things, but at the end of the day, it's a lifestyle. It's a belief, it's a all-encompassing process that you're all in.
It's interesting you say that, because in my first podcast, when I was 24 years old, I think I said I was either 23 or 24, I knew what I wanted then in the financial industry.
You did it.
I did it, but I always said, if you camp, and I still say this today, if you camp by the money stream, good things will happen.
Yeah, I met one of your persons, the business you sold. Sat next to him at a lunch the other day. He says, Billy Nash, he was with you? And I said, yeah, he just sold my business for big money.
I sold it for $85 million when I was 28 years old.
Yeah,
yep. And that was a very well-recognized company in the United States, and it was publicly traded. And boom, I sold it. Yeah. But with that, let's wrap it up. I hope everybody has a tremendous 2023, gets deals done, focused, dialed in. I'm so appreciative of Mike. I'm so glad that I'm here, and I'm always loyal to Mike. This was a great addition as my first guest, Mike Pappas, and he is an authority. And if you want to hear this podcast, of course, you download it, share it with your friends, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. You could send me a message on Nash. All right, we'll go back and do that over again.
Yeah.
Ready? And I'm so excited to have Mike Pappas here as my first guest. It was great. All right, we'll do it over again. You got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Mike, I super much appreciate. The wrap-ups are always the hardest.
His mind's going. Yeah. He's going.
No, I can ask you 1,000 questions.
Yeah, that's right.
So, all right, so here we go. Ready? So, Mike, I really appreciate you being here. That was an awesome interview. You are an authority. You're the best. And everybody in the industry that I know of looks up to you.
Thank you.
And I very much appreciate you being here on the Luxury Real Estate Podcast with me, Billy Nash. So if you're listening to this, share it with your friends. Download it. Spotify. This is the part that I fucking start doing.
All right. So you can wrap that up.
Yeah, I got to wrap it up.
When we do it, just be like, Mike, thank you for coming onto the podcast. This was amazing.
Yep.
It's simple.
Yep.
And then go like, if you want to hear more or want to catch this podcast whenever
Yeah,
it
got
comes
it.
out,
You can tap. They cut that.
Yeah. Mike, it was awesome having you today.
Honored to be here.
Thank you so much. Your 2023 forecast, and
It's going to be better than everybody thinks.
listen, I hope it is. I mean, we're working hard. We're working to listen. Right. At the end of the day, there's always a game in town.
Yeah.
And I learned that at a very young age. So,
And you've got to seize the opportunity.
thank you to all the listeners for downloading this podcast. Share with your friends, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And if you have a question, you can direct message me on nash.billy on Instagram or Facebook. And everybody knows my cell phone. Or go to nashluxury.com and you'll see all of our things. I fucked that up.
start from the socials.
What's it again?
Start from the socials.
Okay.
Actually, start from like, also catch your website.
Yeah. Also, go to my website. nashluxury.com, and see lots of really great, luxurious content. Look forward to talking to everybody again on the next podcast. This is Billy Nash, and I'll talk to you soon.